President Biden just wrapped up his State of the Union address. In his last State of the Union address of this term, the president trying to convince voters to re-elect him. The president spending just over an hour touching on wars in Ukraine and Gaza, the economy, and the border. Danny Spiewak has a look at what the president said and what it might mean in this election year. Danny?
Julie and Randy, this is the largest platform President Biden will have until the Democratic National Convention in August. Tonight, he touched on topics like foreign policy, the economy, and reproductive rights, and went on the attack against his presumptive GOP opponent, former President Trump.
Good evening.
President Biden opened his fourth State of the Union calling on Congress to provide military assistance to Ukraine.
We will not walk away.
And he used that issue to portray former President Trump as a threat to democracy.
History is watching, just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th.
2 days after Super Tuesday, Biden's speech had clear political implications. It's a moment closely watched by Republican strategists like Brian McClung.
This is kind of the kickoff to the general election campaign now.
Yeah.
And Democratic strategists like Jeff Hayden.
He's going to have to show the American public that he's capable.
Facing pressure in the Middle East, Biden laid out his plans for the U.S. military to build a port for humanitarian aid in Gaza.
It's heartbreaking. I've been working nonstop to establish an immediate ceasefire that would last for 6 weeks.
The president has been losing a share of his primary vote over Middle East policies to uncommitted voters, including 19% in Minnesota.
What's going to happen in the uncommitted is that if they don't feel that, it's going to continue to grow. They're mobilized. They obviously are going to the polls.
Yet Biden must also court independence. Despite a significant drop since the war, the latest Gallup polls show 58% of Americans still view Israel favorably.
That uncommitted vote in Minnesota was quite a bit higher, I think, than I anticipated. I think that, the president is taking steps to address that. But again, most Americans, a majority of Americans, support Israel.
Biden also walked a fine line on immigration.
Secure the border, provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, and so much more.
But his reversal of Trump-era policies drew a forceful response.
Crooked Joe and his radical left lunatics deliberately dismantled each and every one of those policies that were so good.
Tonight, President Biden called on congressional Republicans to embrace the bipartisan border bill and accused former President Trump of using his influence to torpedo that deal earlier this year. During the speech, the Trump campaign and one of his political action committees also released real-time responses saying that Biden has, quote, undermined immigration enforcement during his tenure. Randy.
All right, thanks, Danny. Just a few minutes ago, Senator Katie Britt from Alabama gave the Republican response from her living room in Montgomery, where she said the president's speech was out of touch.
What we saw was the performance of a permanent politician who has actually been in office for longer than I've been alive. One thing was quite clear, though. President Biden just doesn't get it. He's out of touch. Under his administration, families are worse off, our communities are less safe, and our country is less secure.